Have you ever wanted to learn how to play drum set? Do you know what makes it whole? My name is Holden Harper. I've been playing drum set for the past 6 years. I've entered talent shows, I have played in my high school band, and I've also played in my high school's drama department. I also got some of my information from www.drumsoloartist.com. If you've ever want to learn how to play drums, it might be a good idea if you got a general idea of what you want to play. A drum set just isn't some massive object you beat on. A drum set involves way more than that. You need drumsticks. The drum set has many components that make it whole, and there's a certain place for each of these parts to make it playable. Without drumsticks, a drum set would be impossible to play. You have nothing to play it with. Now, when picking a pair of drumsticks, it determines on personal preference, but what do you need to look for? First off, you need to decide if you want a thick or thin drumstick. A thick drumstick is heavy and makes it easier to bounce. It's a little bit louder, but it's a little bit harder to get around the drum set. Thin drumsticks are lighter. They make it easier to get around the drum set, but they're not as loud. Then you need to decide if you want a wood tip or a nylon tip. A wood tip chips, but it gives the drum set a deeper, more traditional sound. You can also pick a nylon tip. A nylon tip gives the drum a kind of pow sound. It makes cymbals ring easier as well, and they don't chip. Like there are different variations of drumsticks, there's different drums. A drum set is exactly what it sounds like. It's a set of drums and cymbals to make one single instrument. First off, you have a hi-hat. A hi-hat consists of two cymbals that are suspended by one pole. These cymbals can be pressed together or separated via a foot pedal. Whenever you press down on the foot pedal, it puts the cymbals together. Whenever you lift it up, the cymbals come apart. A hi-hat is normally used for keeping tempo throughout most drum set music. Next, you have the bass drum. The bass drum is the biggest drum for the entire drum set. It gets the most bass out of all the other instruments throughout the drum set. It is played with a foot pedal. When you press down the foot pedal, it makes the arm come back and hit the head of a drum. Next is the snare. The snare is a single drum that is one of the loudest parts of a drum set. The reason it's so loud is because when you hit it, it makes vibrations. These vibrations go to the underbelly of the drum and makes the snares vibrate. These snares can either be pressed up against the bottom of the drum or separated. This can be separated or put together through a little knob on the side of the snare drum. Then you have toms. Toms can come in single, you can have a pair of them, or you can have even more than that. But there are different types of toms. You have the high tom, and you have the low tom, and you also have the floor tom. The high tom makes the highest pitched noise out of the other toms. But don't get me wrong, all toms make a low pitched noise. It's just the highest. It's also the smallest. The low tom gives it the lowest, not the lowest noise, it gives it the medium lowest noise, and it's a little bit bigger than the high tom. The floor tom is the biggest out of all the toms, and it has the lowest pitched noise. Then you have all those cymbals. There are many different types of cymbals. You have the crash cymbal. The crash cymbal is the loudest out of all the cymbals. When you give them a hit, it makes a crash type noise. Then you have the splash cymbal. The splash cymbal is like a mini crash cymbal. When you hit it, it gives it a splash noise. It's not as loud as a crash cymbal, but it's used for the same purpose. Then you have the ride cymbal. The ride cymbal is a little bit different than all the other cymbals. The reason being, it can be used as a crash or a tempo keeper instead of a hi-hat. When you hit the outside of a crash cymbal, it makes a loud crash sound. Whenever you hit on the inside of the crash cymbal towards the dome right there, it makes a ding sound. See, with all these instruments, with all these pieces, you think it'd be hard to put it together. It's not really that hard. It's all based on personal preference, like choosing drumsticks, but it all depends on what you want. But there's a generic form of a drum set that most people are what a drum set is normally set up as. First off, what you do to set up a drum set, you sit down. You pull the bass drum up close to you, but you don't want it to be directly in the middle of the bass drum. You want to sit a little bit to the right of it. Yeah, have it sit a little bit to the right of you. So you can put your right foot on its pedal. Make sure you press down a few times to make sure that it easily hits the head without you having much problem. Make sure that you have enough room between the bass drum and where you're sitting. You're going to be putting a snare between you and there. Next, put your hi-hat a little bit to the left of you. Make sure your left foot can easily press on its pedal right there. Press it a few times. Make sure it's comfortable. Make sure there's enough room between your left leg and your right leg so you can put the snare drum in between. The snare drum will be straddled. Make sure when you put it in the middle of you, you can still easily hit down on the bass pedal and the hi-hat pedal. Then you're going to put on the toms. The toms go in a little hole that are on the very top of the bass drum. Where the hole is, you'll put a rod inside the hole, and from the rod, there will be 2 more rods that jut out from it. You'll put your high tom and your low tom. Your high tom, if you're looking directly at your drum set, will be on the left. Your low tom will be on the right. Make sure whenever you have these set up, you can easily transition between either or. Next, you're going to put your floor tom down. The floor tom goes a little bit to the right of you. Make sure that it's not too close or too far away so you can get to it. Also, be aware that you need to have enough room between the low tom and the floor tom to transition easily. Next, you're going to put your cymbals. Your crash and splash cymbals can go basically anywhere on the outside of your drum set, just as long as it's not too far away or too close. If it's too far away, you're not going to be able to hit it. If it's too close, you're going to hit it without even meaning to. Your right cymbal is a little bit different. It goes a little bit between your low tom and your floor tom. Make sure it's suspended over your floor tom so you'll be able to get to it. And also make sure there's enough arm distance so you'll be able to get to the center dome and be able to hit it. Now, like I said before, this is all based on personal preference. You don't have to have the drum set just exactly like this. You can add more drums. You can set it up differently. Sooner or later, you can have a drum set that looks like this. So, as one can see, a drum set is a little bit more complex than what it may seem. And now that you know a little bit about the drum set, you can start playing. You know how to pick out your own drumsticks. You know what kind of drums you need and what you think you may want to play with, and you even know how to set it up. Thank you.